5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, Dr. Bright, for testifying. I appreciate it. I was a cardiovascular and thoracic surgeon and been in healthcare for over 30-some years, so I want to comment on, I'm not going to ask a question about hydroxychloroquine. I just want to comment on how the medical community responds to this type of thing. Doctors across the country will use drugs off-label in a circumstance where they don't have or they don't see a viable alternative to that. And I think this is one of those circumstances. I'm hearing from doctors across the country. And look, I'm with you. You have to have double-blind studies. You have to have proof under normal circumstances. But in this situation, I think a little bit of understanding and leeway from the federal government is in order. We do want to ensure the safety. This is a drug that has been proven safe for many, many years in the appropriate doses. It does prolong the QT interval, as you've outlined, which can lead to cardiac arrhythmias if not used properly. But I mean, tell you, when states tried to stop doctors from using this, there was such a backlash, they had to back away from it because the physicians in the community wanted to use it. And so doctors like me out in the real world, if things are working, even anecdotally, they're not going to wait for the government bureaucracy to approve it. I just want to get that on the record. I'm just saying this is why doctors are using this drug. Whether it's right or not, data will show. But, you know, if 2 years from now we have the studies and we say, hey, that stuff really would have worked, and the government stopped that from being used, if I was a family of a person that was stopped from getting hydroxychloroquine, I'd be pretty mad. I want to talk about the supply chain issues and as it relates to PPE, the personal protective equipment, and I think there's enough blame to go around in the federal government about what happened there. For, you know, after H1N1, where our national stockpiles were depleted, we didn't replenish them. We've had people on both sides of the aisle talking about this, and I think there's some blame to go around. But, you know, I don't want to be accusatory, but I do want to go over some of the facts about BARDA's situation as it relates to the masks, okay? And according to Washington Post report, in 2015, the Obama administration and a company now known as O&M Halyard, H-A-L-Y-A-R-D, announced a project to develop rapid pandemic mask production line. According to federal contracting records, in 2017, HHS signed off on a $3.3 million, with an M, payment to Halyard to build a machine that could churn out millions of protective respiratory masks at a high rate of speed during a pandemic. However, in September of 2018, CNBC reported that the machine was never built. And despite BARDA's $1.5 billion with a B budget, the Washington Post reported there wasn't money to pay for the project. Why was the project scrapped, and did you sign off on that decision?
So that project with Halyard was to build a novel new machine to make respiratory protection face masks faster, as you described accurately. Right. Actually, the technical team must have reviewed that proposal on the next step or the further investment in that machine. I believe that the investment to date was made to design the machine, build the blueprint of the machine, and I'm not even sure if it was to build an actual
at that time, in September 2018, were you the head of BARDA?
In 2018, I was the director of BARDA.
Right. So did you sign off on the decision? Because I would expect a decision like that, a contract, money was allocated apparently from HHS to BARDA to do this. I wouldn't expect that to be scrapped without the director of BARDA signing off on that, right? So did you sign off on it? It's a yes or no question.
Not necessarily scrap the project, sir. I don't know what the proposal was. That we rely on a very thorough vetting process in our contracting office. So that proposal to further continue that project never made it to me. So if it wasn't approved, it didn't make it through the proper vetting process in BARDA. The decision to end or continue that project was not brought to me.
Okay, I find that surprising, but I'll take your word for it. Nicole Lurie, who hired you, told the Washington Post that the Halyard contract was part of an explicit strategy to ensure we could surge mass production in the next crisis. Well, now we're here and we don't have it. So we're dealing with the consequences of that decision. And in addition, I guess, to the Halyard, I keep saying that wrong. It is my understanding, well, I'm running out of time. So what I'm going to just say is, look, to doctors across America, you know, It's easy for us to sit in Washington, D.C., whether we're members of Congress or whether we're agencies, and talk in the abstract about people dying in our intensive care units, but when you're the physician at the bedside and there is a medication that has promise and that has a safety profile that we understand, doctors will use this medication offline, and that's what's happening. And whether that's right or wrong, we might take us years to prove, but in the meantime, people can die. So I yield back.
Gentleman.